Alright, so we're going to take a look at the interior before we get going. So it's got these huge, comfortable leather seats. Huge. I mean, they got a bit of a buckety feel at the front, which I do like. So it's a good compromise between racy sort of bucket seats that aren't as comfortable and huge leather comfortable seats. It's semi-aniline leather. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Semi-aniline. Anyway, point is they're really comfy. And they've got all these little holes around it, which obviously do the heating and the cooling. On that note, you've got auto heating and cooling up here, which actually does a really good job at knowing when to do cold and when to do hot. So, I mean, I'm guessing obviously it's just using the temperature from outside, but it's got 3 levels of heating and 3 levels of cooling. So level 1, 2, and 3, depending on how intense you want it. But auto mode I actually found really good. I'm not sure if it does it hot and cold. I think it's just for the hot, but so far it does it really well. And then you come over to these sort of instrument clusters here. This little thing here, you got a little mouse that controls the 12.3 screen, which can get really annoying. Lexus and Toyota really need to get into CarPlay ASAP, because this thing is just, I mean, it's not even a touch screen because obviously it's really far away. No one's going to be reaching that far. They could have potentially brought it a bit forward. It would have made it a lot easier. You've obviously got the sunroof, and I like the option here to make it just go up and down, as opposed to a lot of other cars you have to sort of touch, open, touch, and then leave it like that, if you know what I mean. Otherwise this just goes up and down if you just want a little bit of air to go through. In terms of the back seats, they could do with a little bit more room for the passengers. The left and the right seats are super comfy. They've got the heating option. The middle one does not, because that's sort of just plain leather. It is quite firm. Wouldn't recommend 5 people for a longer journey. And then when you pull the middle one down, as you saw in some of the other videos, it does have an option for the rear passengers to change the weather and the music. The music I'm not too sure about. That actually might get annoying because it just changes the music for the whole car, and you'd probably be battling between the front and the back passengers. But it is a good option to have, I guess. And then, so else here, you can't actually pull it that way. You have to go slide it back and then up. And it does have a decent amount of room. You do have your 2 USB ports here, an aux port, and then the 12 volt input there. Then you come over to gear stick, nothing new there. And you can change here. There's a little cluster here for eco, normal, and sport mode. Then you go up to here. It's where all your temperature buttons are. Obviously dual climate at the front, and then obviously tri-climate at the back. And it does have a digital thing that can allow you to go up, down, shows the temperature. Nothing new there. The steering wheel is, I would say, when you're driving it's a bit light, but physically it is a bit thick. So it could do with a little bit of sitting down, and although the steering wheel does allow you to heat it up, so on those cold days, I guess if you want to heat up your hands, heat up the steering wheel. When you turn the car on, you'll see the wheel will come forward and the chair will go forward as well, which I love. I think that's an unreal feature, because when you're getting out of your car, or when you turn it off, it'll move itself back, push the chair back, remember your position obviously, and then you can get out with a bit more space. So if you turn it off, do the turn off, so it goes back, and then you turn on, which is awesome. I really like that. We've gone through the instrument cluster in a few other videos. I had to turn it off because I'm not sure if you could hear me. It is a V8. So the instrument cluster, I would say, is pretty decent with the big one in the middle. The digital one is actually very good. I do like that a lot. And obviously when you change it from eco, normal to sport, it sort of changes the few little graphics around it. And then you've got on the left where you can change all the settings, which I do like. You can show the little G meter and a few little lap timers, fun things like that if you go to the track, whatnot. And then on the right, you've got the little analog speedo, which you're not going to look at ever. The heads-up display is really good. It's got the rev counter as well. It's really bright, and it's just in a good spot. You obviously can change it a bit around, but good to have that option there, as well as the digital instrument cluster. Not too impressed with this screen here. I mean, it is huge, but it's just, could be touchscreen, could have CarPlay and just a few other things. It's a bit hard to work around, find the settings, do all the presets. I still haven't even figured out how to do the FM presets, because there's not really an option to move things to one or hold things down, etc. But I guess you just gotta live with it as it is. The sound is Mark Levinson. It has got 17 speakers, which is unreal. They're just everywhere. When you put your music on, it's just like sitting in the middle of an orchestra. It does sound really good. I'll give him that. The bass is so good. I put the bass on max just to see how it is, and it thumps pretty loud, but obviously don't keep it on max. I'd probably put it maybe 2 off max, and then the bass and the treble, the mids and the treble. Super clean, super clear. When you put sort of vocal songs on, or poppy, acoustic, the vocals sound really good from the artist. So overall, the interior is really nice. You've got some carbon fiber little trims here, around a nice suede there, going through the suede here, which is, I like this a lot, because I've seen a lot of cars that have plastic here, and first world problem, but your elbow starts to hurt after a while. But having the fabric, I really like it. And then the little fabric here for this little mousy thing. So, and then a bit of racy leather on the stick, and obviously more slowed around. So nice interior. It feels really comfortable, and the main thing is it feels luxurious when you're sitting in here. You sit in it, you've got all these options, all these features, all these heating and cooling happening around. So it is a very luxurious car. Not as sporty on the inside as you would tell, apart from the little silver parts there on the seat, but it does feel really good here. So now we're going to take it for a drive, and we'll go through how it drives, its performance, all the specs and all that sort of thing. And we are good to go. Okay. See, I thought it was just when you turn the start stop on, when you press the button, but as soon as you do your seatbelt, Mark's in the way. As soon as you put your seatbelt in, that is really cool. Nice work. All right, let's go. So this car has 351 kilowatts of power, 530 newton meters of torque, but you only get your peak torque at around 4,600 to 5,600, around that mark. So around the 5,000 mark is where you get your peak. So it's a 5-litre V8, which roars like there's no tomorrow, but you're only getting your peak at the higher end. So what I've noticed is when you're driving this, you'll get a little bit of kick down the bottom, but it's not much. You need to wait for it. You wait till around the, let's say 3 to 4, it starts to hype up, and then at 5, that's when it goes nuts. So that's the thing, I'm sort of thinking, well, turbos have a bit better at the lower, they kick in and they sort of just go, but then again, they're naturally aspirated. When you chuck it into manual mode, I think that's when it really shows itself. So when you chuck it into manual, you hold the gears up. Let's say we hold it into second, you're at 3,000, 4,000, and then that's when it goes. That's the best way to go about it. And I don't know if that ruined the camera placement, but anyway, doesn't matter. It does weigh almost 1,900 kilograms, which is not light by any means. 1,900. Remember that, that's almost 2 tons. So you do feel it, and I don't want to say the B word, boat-ish, but every now and then it can feel like it. That sound, so onto that sound, it starts as a little rumble at the bottom, from let's say 0 to 2, 3,000, and then from 3 to 6, you have a much gruntier sound. It's much, and then after 5,000, 6,000, it just roars. So let's try and put it down again. That's when you get the roar. At the very end, it's got like 3 stages, this exhaust note, which is really interesting, but it'll do. It's really comfortable to drive, even so I'm in normal now. Let's go to sport. Sport mode holds the gears a lot higher, obviously makes it much firmer. Not too much firmer though, it's still a luxury sort of grand tourer. So even in sport, and then you go one more into sport S plus, That's really exciting. It's really fun in Sport S Plus, but it's still comfortable. Very, very comfortable. I noticed very minor differences between all the modes in terms of the way it drives on the road, the way it handles in terms of comfortableness. So I'm more than happy to drive in all modes and it'll still be comfortable. That's the main thing. I can drive this in Eco, Normal, Sport, and you still have 5 people. It'll go over some bumps and you won't feel anything. I did take it around some windy corners, and in Sport mode and Sport Plus, it goes into the corners really well, but you can still feel the weight a bit. You can still feel it holding itself back. It'll go in well. It's got the rear wheel drive. It's got good traction when you're in dry conditions, but even the slightest of dewy sort of wet conditions, you'll get a lot of wheel spin. I mean, I was at a traffic light and only put about 20, maybe 25 to 50%, and you still got the little traction button and a bit of slight skidding. So just be careful. You've got a lot of power here, all going to the rear wheels, and if you're in a little bit of wet, you're gonna get a little bit out of control. So just be very careful of that. But in dry conditions, it's got almost, I would say, very good traction. Can compete with the all-wheel drive ones, but not exactly 100%. It does well to keep itself planted. When you're going through those windy roads, it just hits them hard. As soon as you go down around a corner, flap it down, and then it just flies off. Because it's rear-wheel drive, it'll handle very, very well. Obviously, it does shine a bit better on the track. So with any sort of sport saloon, you're not going to feel the full potential until you hit the track and go hard. But even around windy roads on a weekend, you want to go for a nice drive, it does it really well. And the sound, you can't match the sound of a V8. I mean, the inline sixes are great, that the BMW's making, but just this V8 sound is just unreal. At the very high end though, I will say that it could be better in the low to mid end because it's sort of just ramping up. It's not always there, and I hear that it is a little bit enhanced, which is a bit disappointing, but at least it makes it sound a bit better. It comes with adaptive variable suspension, which I went through all the settings and you can't adjust any of it yourself. So don't be thinking, oh, I'm going to adjust the suspension depending on what setting I'm in. It does it all automatically. So you can't actually do anything in terms of those settings. And you can't decide how firm, how soft, it's all automatic. I mean, some people might prefer that, but yeah, this is one of the latest additions to this model that are AVS, and it works with obviously the torque vectoring and just makes handling a lot better, makes it go around corners a bit more seamlessly. So it's a really good addition to have. Lexus claims it'll do 0 to 100 around the 4.6 second mark, which, I mean, it's great for the size, and it's great for the fact that it doesn't have turbos or anything to make it a bit quicker, but there are competitors out there that will do it a lot quicker. Obviously the M3, M4, the E63S, and those sort of guys, the Julia QV. But then again, for a daily driver, it's very comfortable. It's the sort of, I would call it the luxury Grand Tourer, because it's got all the luxurious features. It's got plenty of power, and when you're going on a road trip or anything like that, you can still hit it hard but stay comfortable the whole time. So I wouldn't call it like a track beast or anything like that. I mean, it does shine very well on the track, but it is a very comfortable family car. Just went under a slight tunnel. The agility is fairly good for its size, given that it does weigh 2 tons. Something a bit weird that I picked up, got me a bit frustrated, it's the blinkers. So in a lot of cars nowadays, you can do a bit of a tap and it'll do 1, 2, 3. So if you're changing lanes, you go tap and you don't have to worry about flicking it back up. With this one, you've got tap, which goes 1, 2, 3, but then it doesn't stay down. So let's say you're at the lights and you want to turn right, you fling it down and it comes back up. which is the same feel as the tap. So I'm always getting confused whether, let's say I want to do a quick change of lanes and I'd do a tap, it'll then do the full tap and it'll just stay on it. And it'll just stay on the right, and I'll just not realize for 5 minutes, oh, the blinker's still going, which is partly my fault, but it's just funny because the blinker doesn't actually stay down all the way. I guess new technology. The cruise control is, so the little stick here is the same one that you get in a little Corolla for the reset, hold and set, but this has the radar that'll do the adaptive. And so it'll speed up and slow down according to, there's a few cars here. It'll speed up and slow down according to the car in front. You can choose how close you want to be to that car, and then it'll also do lane keeping, which we found to actually be quite good because it holds itself in there, and the steering wheel will actually just sort of float you back in if you're going out. But obviously it's not a self-driving mechanism. It's just as a tool. If you are swaying, it'll help you a bit. So don't use it as self-driving. Not completely impressed with the head unit, as we discussed earlier. I'm also plugging through Bluetooth and then just let that go. And then I've got my little cradle here for my phone for Google Maps, or because the maps are alright, but not many people these days are using maps inbuilt there. They're chucking on Google Maps. They've got all their saved spots there. It's got all the traffic, just a lot easier. The traffic is one of the main things, and it has traffic events on there, but not live traffic updates. That sound again. Thirst wise, around the city, we average around the 15 to 20 litres per 100, which is standard for a V8. On the combined cycle, so this is with around 60 to 70% on the motorway, which would be heavily swayed towards motorway, and then 30 to 40% urban around, not peak hour, just urban. That got back around 12 to 13, which wasn't too bad. Close to the 11 litres that they say that Lexus says you should be returning, but close enough. If you're doing a bit more motorway, obviously it's very comfortable for that. Even in the city and start-stop, the 8-speed gearbox is quite good. Going from first, second, third, if you're just doing those sort of changes, thank you. Yeah, the gearbox is quite seamless. I haven't noticed any clunks at all, which is one of the main things I look for when I'm testing these cars out, and when I'm going down from, let's say, 6th gear down to stop, it just goes smoothly. It's like it's one gear, which is the best thing I want to see, which is very, very impressive. And then when you're accelerating, it does it, I have felt a bit quicker in other cars, but it's quick enough. It's not like you're going to notice those extra few milliseconds in the shifting of the gears. Obviously much quicker when you're in sport mode. You've got manual mode as well, which you do there, and it shows you all the gears that you've got going on. But when you're stuck in with the paddles, as soon as you're in sport, it'll just click. 1, click 2, 3, and it'll just go all the way up to 8 speed. And because it's got 8 gears on the motorway, that 8th gear, if you're in it, it's revving so low you can't even notice the car is making any sound, so it's comfortable. That's the thing about this car. You can drive it in eco or normal. You don't have to rev the backside off of it, and it's comfortable. It's a comfortable luxury car. And then if you don't want that, as soon as you turn it into Sport Plus, it just wakes up. Even in normal, as soon as you start revving it, it wakes up. And that's the thing. Like now I'm driving it, I couldn't even tell it was a V8, a 5-litre V8 with 350 kilowatts of power. But as soon as I just go dunk, that is definitely a V8 with 350 kilowatts of power. So it's good to know they have the option there. And that's what I mean, it's a luxury Grand Tourer, because it's not an obnoxious sports car that's always in sports car mode, always low and planted and firm and bumpy. This just does it both. It does comfortable and luxury, and then on the other hand, it does sporty, aggressive, roaring, V8, which I love. I genuinely have enjoyed this car because it just provides the best of both worlds, and I think that's the sort of people that are going to be buying it. They want to chuck their family in it comfortably, but also on the weekends potentially take it to the track, go for a cruise around windy roads, and it'll do both just fine. Overall, there's a few things that, slight things that could be improved in the future, a few modernization things here and there, but I love that 5-litre V8, naturally aspirated, no turbos. They've kept it simple. It's worked very well, and I hope they just don't kill the V8. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to a turbo or two to make it lightning quick, but this is the only one left, the only sports saloon that's just a straight flat 5-litre V8 in the, obviously they've all gone turbo and inline 6 and whatnot, so I hope they stay. It stays like this. The engine has done so well for so many years, and I've enjoyed it a lot. It's just, the experience you get in it is just great. Like, comment, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're testing a few other Lexuses out, which may or may not be more exciting, or may not share the same engine as this one. So stay tuned and check out those videos coming soon.